Did you know that Santa Claus has only been around for about 100 years? That's right. For most of human history, people celebrated Christmas without a jolly old elf in a red suit bringing them presents. And even though Santa Claus has been a part of our culture for a relatively short amount of time, there have been some consistent characters who have appeared in many different stories about him over the years. Let's meet some of Santa's oldest friends. Starting with this guy, who do you think he is? Pause the video here if you want to make a guess. This is one of Santa's most recognizable helpers, but he wasn't always known as Santa Helper. In fact, when he first appeared in a 19th century German story called The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, he wasn't even called by his real name. Instead, he was simply referred to as Ruprecht, which means right hand. In the story, Ruprecht was one of Santa's helpers who helped him deliver presents to children in Germany and the Netherlands. He was usually depicted as a giant with a sack full of toys, and he often carried a switch to punish naughty children. Over the years, his appearance changed quite a bit. He went from being a giant to being a small man, and his switch was replaced with a whip. Eventually, the character we know today as Santa Helper was born. But even though he's been known as Belsnickel or Pelsnickel throughout much of European folklore, he's most commonly known by another name, Saint Nicholas. That's right, this jolly old elf is actually based on a real historical figure. Born in the 3rd century AD, Nicholas was the bishop of Myra. He was known for his generosity and kindness, especially towards children. One story goes that while he was traveling, he saw a poor family and wanted to help them out. So he threw bags of gold coins into their window. When they opened the window to see where the coins came from, he was gone. Over the years, stories like these caused him to be associated with gift giving, and he became known as the patron saint of children and sailors. After his death, many churches were dedicated to him, and one of those churches was located in a small town in Austria called Brixen. It just so happened that a monk at this church in the 1800s had a very interesting idea. He decided that he wanted to bring the legend of Saint Nicholas to life, so he dressed up as the saint and started visiting poor families in their homes and giving them gifts. And even though this monk kept his identity a secret, word got around that there was a mysterious gift giver in town. So the next year, he decided to do it again. Only this time he brought along a friend who would dress up as one of Santa's helpers. Once again, the two went around to poor families' homes and delivered gifts until one day they were spotted by a local newspaper. The paper wrote a story about these mysterious gift givers, and before long, other people wanted to take part in the fun. Soon, entire groups of men were dressing up and delivering gifts all throughout Austria and Germany. Some historians even believe that these groups were early versions of the secret Santa clubs that are popular today. But no matter who started the tradition, there is no denying that these stories quickly made their way across the Atlantic and became a big part of American culture. But Santa Friend wasn't the only one to make the trip across the sea. Another well-known Christmas character has deep roots in England. We're talking about good old Santa reindeer. Okay, so technically Santa's reindeer aren't really that old because none of them have names that go back any further than the 1800s. But the idea of reindeer being used as a mode of transportation during winter is much older. You see, for centuries, the Sami people have used reindeer to help them travel through the snow. They would ride on the backs of these reindeer, use them to pull sleds, and even eat them when they were in desperate need of food. And even though reindeer are most commonly associated with Santa Claus today, there was another famous reindeer man in the late 1800s. His name was Saint Bernard, and in the story, The Tale of Sir Launfal, he was an explorer who lived in Greenland and was famous for his ability to communicate with reindeer. Bernard believed that each reindeer had a unique personality and could be as tame as a dog. And although he never met Santa Claus, he did leave behind a legacy that inspired a famous author named Robert Louis Stevenson. Stevenson was so fascinated by the character of Saint Bernard that he wrote a whole book about him. And it was this book that inspired the creation of Santa's most famous reindeer. So even though he might not have pulled Santa's sleigh, there's a good chance that he was a huge inspiration to those who did. For more fun facts about Santa history, stay tuned.